My name is Olivia Smith, and this is my applied practice experience. As a general overview, I'll step into the introduction of what my experience was, the products I created, the activities used to support those products, how those products met my competencies, and then I'll wrap it all up. So the purpose of my experience was to apply learned skills and competencies obtained in the Master of Public Health program in a real-life environment. This would also allow me to develop practical experience and build connections within the local public health community. My applied practice experience was at Prestige Colonial Vista Post-Acute and Rehabilitation Center. The facility has an independent living unit as well as a post-acute and rehabilitation unit where you can recover from surgeries or unplanned hospitalizations. My supervisor was Dottie Cordell, a resident care manager and licensed nurse. My role in this experience was to act as an intern. I had the responsibility of listening, learning, and assisting as much as I could. I went in hoping to gain a greater understanding of the mental health of residents in a long-term living facility with a plan to develop an educational program for improving it. As I continued in my role, I looked to improve the mental health and overall happiness of residents while developing that program that employees could implement once I was gone. Overall, if I was successful, everyone in the program and experience would benefit. I completed 2 projects, a population assessment of the residents and an educational program. Why a population assessment? Well, in long-term living facilities and rehabilitation centers, the primary focus is improving one's physical health. Because of this, their mental health is often forgotten or just simply ignored altogether. To determine the extent of the problem that needed to be corrected, I needed to complete a population assessment. To do this, I collected both qualitative and quantitative data and analyzed it. To collect the data, I administered the PHQ-9 and GAD assessments, as well as spoke with residents through interviews throughout my time. For the educational program, it was important because addressing the mental health disparities among residents required more than just discovering the problem. To address the poor mental health discovered in the population assessment, I developed an educational program that could be implemented in both a long and short-term manner by the facility employees. So what does the educational program look like? I developed an educational presentation that was given to the staff, as well as an educational brochure for staff and for residents, and flyers for the facility. To do this, I worked with my supervisor and the facility staff to develop the program over the period of my internship. More specifically, the 3 activities completed during my projects were the completion of the mental health assessment, the development of an educational presentation, and the creation of educational documents. The mental health assessment included the PHQ-9 and GAD-7. These are tests that were developed to measure one's depression and anxiety. The tests have a proven significantly high retest reliability and have been used for several years to measure mental health. Because of this, no modification or further development was necessary. The tests were administered at the start of my internship and again at the end of it. The 2 scores were then compared. The test will be administered again 6 weeks after the completion of my internship to check for progress. Upon each administration, the scores should decrease. The educational presentation was developed for the staff of the nursing facility. The presentation was designed to teach facility staff the importance of mental health, methods for recognizing a decline in mental health, and ways to combat that decline. Developing them required analysis of data collected in the assessment, collaboration between myself and the site supervisor, and research on the mental health of nursing residents. It was shown to staff at the end of my internship before it fully ended to ensure that it was fully developed. It will be shown to any new and incoming staff, as well as once a year for returning staff. Its success is evaluated by the response of the residents to staff before and after it is given. Updates will be made as needed by administration. There were 2 brochures developed. One was designed for residents and one for the staff. Each one provided different information and methods for addressing an individual's mental health. A third document was developed into a flyer that could be posted around the facility. The flyer included contact information for a local helpline and more general information regarding mental health and ways to improve it. Similar to the presentation, the documents were developed through collaboration and research conducted based on the data collected. Modifications were made based on the negotiations throughout the internship. They were provided to staff and residents upon printing. Following the implementation of the documents and presentation, the assessment scores should decrease. The following competencies were met throughout my experience. CEPH 7, assess population needs, assets, and capacities that affect communities' health. To support this, a finalized document with the qualitative and quantitative data collected during the public health assessment that was analyzed is included in this presentation, as well as my portfolio. CEPH 9, design a population-based policy, program, project, or intervention. The completed educational program, including the presentation as well as the documents that were handed out to staff and residents, are included. CEPH 10, explain the basic principles and tools of a budget and resource management. This is supported by a completed budget and analysis for the implementation of the educational program, which is included. CEPH 17, apply negotiation and mediation skills to address organizational or community challenges. A completed agenda is used to support this competency, as throughout that agenda you will see negotiations that were made between my supervisor and myself in order to make changes that were needed to the educational program. And finally, CEPH 18, select communication strategies for different audiences and sectors. To support this, I have the completed brochures, one for the staff, one for the residents. Different communication strategies were used to develop these as to make it more acceptable by each group. The mental health assessment was administered at the beginning and end of my internship. In the assessments, patients are asked to rate the severity of various symptoms on a scale of 0 to 3. The scores are then tallied to determine the severity of one's anxiety or depression. The goal of the educational implementation was to see the average scores decrease by at least 2 points on both tests. As you can see on both tests, prior to the educational plan, there were more patients categorized under moderately severe or severe than there were after the implementation. To gain a more complete idea of the mental health of the residents, I interviewed each one who participated. During those interviews, I asked the following questions. In the past month, have you felt depressed? In the past month, have you experienced significant anxiety, meaning more than half the time? Do you feel like you have an understanding of your mental health? And do you want to improve your mental health? These were the results. Based on the assessment, I developed the following educational documents that were provided to the staff and residents. For the staff brochure, it is a tri-fold brochure that provides preventative methods that staff can implement. It advises the importance of mental health with statistics, includes internal contacts for staff to use if there are questions or concerns, and the minimal design will help maintain the focus of the employees. For the resident brochure, it is also a trifold brochure. It provides easy signs that residents can look for in themselves and others, includes easy ways that residents can address the issues on their own, provides a resident-friendly contact that they can use if necessary, and the simple design with large font makes for easy reading by the residents. I also developed a flyer that was posted around the facility. The goal of the flyer was to attract attention and provide more information. The symptoms included are slightly different than those on the brochure, while the 4 treatment options remain the same. I aim to keep it simple with large font, provide new information but consistent information, and ultimately help the residents better understand if they did not commit to reading the brochure. At the beginning of the internship, there wasn't an initial discussion regarding the budget. The budget was created during negotiation between myself, my supervisor, and the director of nursing services. We determined that between printing cost, staff pay for training, and additional supplies, the appropriate and available budget would be $1,000. To estimate the total cost within the budget, we were able to determine the cost of printing each product and the supplies needed to fulfill training. Because we are not able to disclose the wages of each employee, we found the average wage among staff and total the estimated wages for 1 hour of training. The estimated average cost of additional supplies, including food and drinks, was done by myself. And as you can see, we remained well within the allotted budget at roughly $601.25. Throughout the apprenticeship, I would meet with my supervisor weekly. We would discuss what was completed that week and address any changes that we felt needed to be made. The weekly meetings gave me an opportunity to use negotiation methods to defend my decisions while accepting critiques, practice professional communication and listening skills, and ensure that I was on the right track for completing each project. Now, as I began my internship, I bonded with residents while completing an assessment of their mental health. I collected the qualitative and quantitative data through interviews and the assessments. Using that collected data, I developed a thorough educational program for the staff and residents that improved their overall mental well-being, both short and long term. The program included the educational documents and a presentation that would be provided to staff. My supervisor and I had weekly meetings to review that educational program, ensure we were remaining within the budget, and practice appropriate communication skills. The negotiations that occurred throughout the process regarding the needs of the residents, how the staff would best learn the material, and what needed to be included in the educational program. This process ultimately provided me with an opportunity to defend my choices, prioritize the needs of the community, and accept constructive criticism in order to grow. Looking back, from the beginning, I had expectations and hopes for what I could learn, experience, and complete. I anticipated significant growth, and while I did learn about real-life skills, growth was rather limited. As I have worked in a medical setting before, the skills used throughout my internship were ones that I already had. They were just used in a different setting. To be successful in a professional healthcare setting, you need communication and listening skills, empathy, flexibility, adaptability, and strong ethics. Throughout the internship, I was required to utilize all of those. Due to the nature of the internship, however, I did expect to have a regular schedule, while in reality, my supervisor's schedule was not regular because of staffing issues. There were several days when she was required to take on more of a nursing position rather than just a supervising position. Because of this, I was required to be flexible and adapt to the daily tasks that my supervisor had to complete before we could focus on the applied practice experience projects. At times, I have to say I did struggle with this, but over time, I began to understand and more or less expect this level of needed flexibility. The learned ability to adapt, combined with my communication and listening skills, helped me improve my professional relationship with my supervisor because she was able to rely on me. As the internship came to an end, we equally expressed our appreciation for one another, and I do feel that I built a lasting relationship that I can reference moving forward within my career. Thank you.